Every song on this list was once number one. Chart-topping, jukebox-filling, radio-owning hits that an entire generation lived inside. But somewhere along the way, the world kept moving and left them all behind. No explanation, no farewell, just silence where the music used to be. These are the 12 country songs that once ruled the 1960s and then disappeared without a word. Number 12, El Paso, Marty Robbins, Columbia Records, 1960.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso.
Columbia Records told Marty Robbins his new song was too long, 4 minutes and 38 seconds, nearly twice what radio would touch in 1959. They pressed a shortened version on one side and buried the full recording on the other, expecting that to be the end of it.
Out through the back door of roses I ran.
Disc jockeys across the country flipped the record over and played the long version anyway. El Paso hit number one on both the country and pop charts and became the first song over 4 minutes in history to top the Billboard Hot 100. It won the very first Grammy ever awarded for Best Country and Western Recording.
My challenge was answered in less than a heartbeat.
Robbins wrote the whole thing. A cowboy, a dancer named Felina, a gunfight at Rosa's Cantina, a man who rides back knowing it will cost him his life. As fast as he could get the words down. Rosa's Cantina is a real bar. It's still standing in El Paso, Texas today.
Cowboy came in, wild as the West Texas wind.
The song Columbia was afraid was too long became the first number one of the entire 1960s. And it still lands like a door closing on the final verse, 65 years later. Number 11, Funny How Time Slips Away. Billy Walker, Columbia Records, 1961.
Well, hello there.
In roughly 12 months, Willie Nelson wrote Hello Walls, Crazy, and Funny How Time Slips Away, 3 songs that defined other people's careers while Nelson collected just enough money to cover rent. He was broke, unknown, and selling his best work for whatever the market would bear. Billy Walker recorded Funny How Time Slips Away in 1961 and took it into the charts. The song captures something almost impossible to write. 2 people who used to love each other making small talk, sounding perfectly polite, while something completely different is happening underneath every word.
Love him till the end of time.
Over 200 artists eventually recorded it. Elvis cut it. Al Green turned it into one of the most celebrated soul recordings of the 1970s. Every single one of them felt like they had written it themselves, which is the mark of writing that is truly great.
It's been so long now.
Nelson wrote it before anyone knew his name, before the red bandana, before any of the mythology. He sold it for almost nothing. The song has outlasted nearly everything else from that era. Billy Walker's name has faded. The song hasn't moved an inch.
Yes, I'll...
Number 10, Walk On By, Leroy Van Dyke, Mercury Records, 1961. In 1994, Billboard magazine ranked the biggest country singles of all time. The number one song on that list was not Hank Williams, not Patsy Cline, not Johnny Cash. It was Leroy Van Dyke with a song most people today have never heard.
I'll call tomorrow night.
Walk On By spent 19 consecutive weeks at number one on the country charts in 1961. A record that stood for over 50 years until Florida-Georgia Line broke it in 2013. It crossed over to number 5 on the pop charts and sold over 1.5 million copies.
When we meet.
Before the Mercury deal came through, a major label had passed on Van Dyke without much interest. About 3 years after that, he said later, he cut the biggest country record of all time. Today he plays smaller venues, largely unknown to anyone under 50. The man who holds the record for the longest-running number one country single has nearly vanished from the public memory, which is either the most country music thing that has ever happened or proof that charts and culture have nothing to do with each other once enough time goes by.
Just walk on by.
Number 9, North to Alaska, Johnny Horton, Columbia Records, 1960.
Big Sam left Seattle.
Johnny Horton had a gift for putting you inside a story, not just listening to it, but standing in it. He had done it in 1959 with the Battle of New Orleans, which hit number 1 on both the country and pop charts and won a Grammy. In 1960, Hollywood asked him to write and record the theme for a John Wayne film set during the Klondike Gold Rush, and he brought the exact same gift to the Yukon. North to Alaska spent 6 consecutive weeks at number 1 on the country chart. It was roaring and cinematic and impossible to sit still through. The kind of record that makes you feel the cold air before the first chorus is finished.
Well, George turned to Sam.
It was also one of the last things he ever recorded. In November of 1960, just weeks after the song reached its peak, Horton was killed in a car accident in Texas. He was 35 years old. His wife was Billie Jean Jones, the widow of Hank Williams. She had now lost 2 country music legends, one to drink and one to the road.
Out in the land of the midnight sun. Yes, Sam.
North to Alaska kept playing because a song that good doesn't stop just because the voice does.
For one small band of gold a place on
Number 8, She Thinks I Still Care, George Jones, United Artists Records, 1962.
just because.
George Jones did not want to record this song. Every time someone played it for him in the studio, he'd look at the tape recorder in the room and ask how much they'd sell it to him for. He was more interested in the equipment than the song. It finally took some serious convincing to get him into the booth. Jones walked in, opened his mouth, and recorded the defining performance of his career. She Thinks I Still Care hit number 1 in 1962, spent 23 weeks on the country chart, and was later inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Jones himself called it his career record, the one that told the public once and for all who he was. Merle Haggard recorded it, Elvis recorded it, Glen Campbell, James Taylor, Anne Murray, Jerry Lee Lewis. They all went back to that song at some point because it had something in it that nobody could leave alone. None of them could touch what Jones did. He almost refused to cut it. Instead, he made the record of his life. Number 7, Almost Persuaded, David Houston, Epic Records, 1966.
Last night, all
A married man walks into a tavern. He sees a woman across the room. They talk, they dance, and then on the dance floor, he looks down and sees the reflection of his wedding ring caught in her eyes, and he walks out. That is the entire story of Almost Persuaded. The almost is the whole song. David Houston took it to number 1 in August of 1966 and held that spot for 9 consecutive weeks, a record that stood for 46 years. It won the Grammy for Best Country and Western Recording. Houston also won Best Country and Western Male Vocal Performance the same night.
hands in mine.
His family lineage reportedly traced back to Sam Houston, President of the Republic of Texas. His godfather was Gene Austin, one of the biggest recording artists of the 1920s. By the time the song arrived, Houston had been grinding in Nashville for over a decade waiting for a moment like this.
Oh, I can.
9 weeks at number 1, 2 Grammys in one night, and today most people couldn't tell you his name. That is one of the more inexplicable disappearing acts in the history of country music.
Myself.
Number 6, Act Naturally, Buck Owens, Capitol Records, 1963. Every song on this list hit number 1 in the 1960s, and most people today have never heard a single note of them. If this is what you come here for, hit subscribe right now. This is Old Trails Archive, and we do this every single week. Let's keep going. Number 5 still, Bill Anderson, Decca Records, 1963.
Though you broke my heart.
Bill Anderson earned the nickname Whisperin' Bill because he had a way of delivering a lyric like a secret. Not performing for a room, but telling you something specifically. He understood that intimacy hits harder than volume. Still is the clearest proof of that in his entire catalog. It reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went straight to number 1 on the country chart. Through the spring and summer of 1963, it traded the top position back and forth with Lonesome 77203 and Act Naturally. 3 completely different songs, 3 different artists, none of them willing to let go of the top spot for more than a few weeks. The lyric is simple. A man has lost his love. The days are bleeding into each other. He's lost count of the hours. And still, that one word carrying all the weight, he's waiting. Anderson doesn't oversell it. He just sits inside the feeling and lets the words do what they do.
Went away. Everything that is except the
Most people who could hum this song today couldn't tell you who recorded it. That gap between how much a song once meant and how completely the name behind it has faded is one of the things this channel was made to close. Number 4, Lonesome 7-7203, Hawkshaw Hawkins, King Records, 1963.
had our number changed to
On March 2nd, 1963, a song called Lonesome 7-7203 was released. 3 days later, the man who recorded it was dead. Hawkshaw Hawkins, a 6'5" World War II veteran who had earned 4 battle stars in 15 months of combat, was killed on March 5th in a plane crash near Camden, Tennessee, alongside Patsy Cline and Cowboy Copas on their way home from a benefit concert in Kansas City. He was 41 years old. His wife, country singer Jean Shepard, was 8 months pregnant. Their son was born 1 month later and named Harold Franklin Hawkins Jr. after his father.
you might want to call and say
2 weeks after the crash, Lonesome 77203 began climbing the charts on its own. It reached number 1 and stayed there for 4 consecutive weeks. Hawkshaw Hawkins never knew.
maybe now.
History remembered the crash as the day Patsy Cline died, and largely forgot the man who had his biggest hit taken from him at almost exactly the same moment it arrived. That is exactly the kind of injustice this channel was made to correct.
203.
Number 3, King of the Road, Roger Miller, Smash Records, 1965.
Trailers for sale, or rent.
Before Roger Miller was famous, he was a Nashville songwriter everyone respected and nobody knew what to do with. He wrote hits for Ray Price and Ernest Tubb, putting his best lines in other people's mouths. At some point, he walked away entirely, moved to Amarillo, and became a fireman. He reportedly saw only 2 fires in his entire career, a chicken coop and one he slept through. After the second one, the fire department suggested he find other work. He came back to Nashville with nothing and wrote King of the Road.
An 8-12 4-bit room.
The inspiration reportedly came from a highway sign that read, "Trailers for sale or rent." Miller started building something around those 6 words, and by the time he was finished, he had written a celebration of freedom from the perspective of a man who owns almost nothing and is completely at peace with that. It hit number 1 on the country chart and number 4 on the pop chart.
Thank you.
At the 1966 Grammy ceremony, King of the Road won 5 awards on its own. The album it came from won a 6th, 6 Grammys in one night, a record that stood until Paul Simon broke it in 1971.
Every handout, every town. And
The man who slept through a fire had written one of the most beloved songs in the history of American music, and it sounds like he barely broke a sweat doing it.
I ain't got no cigarettes.
Number 2, Yesterday When I Was Young, Roy Clark, Dot Records, 1969.
Yesterday,
when I was
Most people knew Roy Clark as the grinning co-host of Hee Haw, the comedian, the showman, the man who could play guitar, banjo, and fiddle simultaneously and make it look like a parlor trick. That image is not wrong, but it hides something completely different underneath it.
concerns itself with me and nothing.
Yesterday, When I Was Young is a song about a man looking back at his own life and realizing, with quiet devastation, that he spent most of it not paying close enough attention. Clark took it to number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1969, the only time in his entire career he cracked the top 40 on that chart.
Waiting to be sung, so many wild
The performance is completely still. No showmanship, no comedy, none of what he was famous for. Just a voice and a lyric, and the kind of honesty that comes when a performer sets down every shield they usually carry.
as rain upon my tongue. I tease
If all you know about Roy Clark is the laugh track, this song will stop you cold.
pleasures lay in store for me, and so
Number 1, Galveston, Glen Campbell, Capitol Records, 1969. Jimmy Webb had visited Galveston as a child, traveling with his father who was a Baptist minister, and the Gulf Coast imagery never left him. When he sat down to write a song set at a military front during the Vietnam era, he reached for Galveston as the contrast, the specific sensory place a soldier might hold in his mind while cleaning his gun somewhere far away, trying to survive one more night. The song never names Vietnam. It never makes an argument. It just puts a young man on a battlefield, hearing the sea in his memory, thinking about a beach he may never see again. Campbell released it in January 1969, and it hit number 1 on the country chart and number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. It won the Grammy for Best Male Country Vocal Performance and Best Contemporary Male Vocal Performance in the same year. People who supported the war heard a patriotic soldier missing home. People who opposed it heard a young man who would rather be anywhere but where they had sent him. Webb had written something that could hold both readings at once, which is a particular kind of genius. It is the best argument on this entire list for what country music could do at its absolute peak, and it is the right song to end on.
I still see her dark eyes close.